My privilege to introduce our speaker today. It is not me, and everybody said, "Amen." We last week I just enjoyed, even though I said I'd had enough of his voice. I enjoyed having Manley share with us last week, and today we have another privilege. We have Hadassah. Come on up. Yeah. Everybody just say hi.
Hi.
I think she's just a little. How are you feeling?
So great.
Okay.
Is it on? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'm totally sitting for this, so thank you.
You'll do well. You'll do well.
Thanks, Steve.
She is just a little nervous, a little anxious. Did you sleep last night?
No.
Okay.
I did not. I was up late. The dogs were bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she is coming to share her story with us today. And as I've been praying for her and praying for us this Sunday, my hope is that her story touches us and challenges us today. So everybody say, hi, Hadassah.
Hello. So my name is Hadassah. So today I'm just going to talk about my story and how God has moved in my life. If you don't know who I am Aaron and Lloyd's daughter. And if you don't know who that is, then welcome to the church. I am 19 years old. I just graduated high school. Perfect. I just graduated high school last year. And so my life has been great. It's been a fun time. I just want to start off by thanking you all so much, one, for having me here today. This is a really great opportunity. Thank you, Steve. But thank you also for your support and your prayers and finances. If you didn't know, I went to a program called YWAM in January, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. It really, truly changed my life, and so thank you for praying and supporting financially. If you weren't here last week, Manley shared on him and Steve's trip to Uganda, but he kind of wrapped it up and brought it back to how we all have a story and how we're all called to share our story. I bet each and every one of us has a story, how Jesus has worked in our lives, but there's something in us that actually just stops us from sharing it. But why? Why are we too scared to tell people how Jesus has saved us? I know that this is kind of scary to tell you guys how Jesus has, but I'm actually so excited to tell you because he truly has changed my life forever, and I'm forever grateful. So that's what I'm doing here today, is just telling you my story. Before I actually get into to talk about my YWAM experience, I want to share some of my testimony. When I was 8 years old, I gave my life to Jesus. I was born and raised in a Christian home, but I didn't actually live for God. I didn't have that desire. I had a desire to live for the world. My heart was never set on Jesus. He was always in the back of my mind, but my heart was set on partying and drinking and going out with friends. I never lived for God. And I put myself in those situations where I was partying and drinking and smoking, and it wasn't glorifying to God. And I actually was diagnosed with depression and anxiety in the 9th grade, and throughout all of high school, it got pretty bad. I didn't feel like I had a purpose in this life, and my anxiety was so bad that I couldn't leave home. School was really hard. I was not gonna cry, but here we are. But I was at a very low point, and Jesus wasn't in my life, but I had given my life to him, but I didn't live for him. I didn't have a personal relationship with him. But after years of struggling, there wasn't a single day, just a specific day where everything changed, but I can I can sit here and tell you that Jesus has completely healed me of depression and that I am set free. And so that's just one of the many stories that Jesus has worked in my life. Sorry. But I want to encourage you all that your story does have power. No matter how big or small you think it is, that it might be something like, oh, you went to Brazil and had a life-changing experience, or like he just showed up when you were feeling sad and he gave you peace and joy. Like your story has so much power for those around you. So I encourage you not to be scared, but to tell people you don't know, tell people you do know, because people, it can change their lives. So now I'm going to get back into YWAM. YWAM it's Youth with a Mission. So it's an organization all over the world that brings youth together and trains them and then sends them out into the world to tell people about the good news of Jesus. How did I kind of get into this? Well, I was in high school, and that question comes up. It's like, what do you want to do with your life after high school? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't really want to go back to school. School kind of sucked. It wasn't really on my heart. And then I remembered that when my brother, he went to a YWAM program. He went to Belize when he was my age. I was like 6 years ago, 7 maybe. And I remember being like, okay, yeah, that sounds fun. He got to travel the world, and that sounds really cool. I've always wanted to travel the world. And part of me is wanting to say that, like, oh, this was a great experience that God put on my heart, but I honestly went because I was like, oh, it's a Christian program, my parents will be proud of me. And yeah, my heart wasn't really in the right place, but I'm so glad I went because it changed my life. So yeah, I ended up going to YWAM. And then my first week there was actually very scary. I remember going there, and I was in the building, and it was our first night, and my parents left, and I was not there in my mind, and I'm so lost. And I remember this feeling in me, looking around at everyone, being like, okay, I'm overwhelmed now, I need my friend. And I'm like, whoa, I don't know anybody here. I need to actually make friends because I need to get out of this. That was crazy. I felt really lost and really stressed out. I remember wanting to go home every single night for the first week, but I stuck through. It was great. And then, yeah, the first week was so busy. We started at 6:30 in the morning. You had to be up. I mean, not really, but okay, for those that don't know me, 6:30 is very early in the morning. I would sleep till 1 p.m. because I just could, and I don't like waking up early. So 6:30 is really early, okay? So the day started off, and I was dead. Not a great start to the week. And then the days were so filled that I think we stopped doing stuff at 11 p.m. And then I went to bed at 12 and then did the same thing the next day. And I was like, okay, we can just do it for the week. And then the weekend hit, and we actually had to do something on Saturday. And I'm like, this sucks. I just want my Saturday off. And then, Sunday we had church, and I'm like, I love you, Jesus, but I need some rest. So the first week sucked, but don't take that as if you think you should go to YWAM. Go, it's great. The first week will be hard, but the rest is great, I promise. And then the first day, I remember I was with nobody. I didn't know anybody, but we were doing worship. We were doing worship, and afterwards, I remember the director, he came up, and he started talking, and I'm like, okay, this guy's crazy. You're weird. And he was like, okay, we're gonna pray for each other now. And my heart was like, what? I have never prayed for anybody out loud before, for them. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I remember going up to this one girl, and I was like, okay, you look cool. We can be friends. She was one of the leaders, found out she was gonna staff my school, and she was my small group leader. But I was like, want you to know I've never done this before, so have grace. And she was like, it's okay, just pray for this. And I'm like, okay, God, I just pray for Brie. I hope she has a great day. But it was nighttime, and I'm like, it was okay. It was a great prayer. But that really stuck with me because that was the first time, but like of many times that I've prayed for somebody out loud. And I think that I just needed to get over that one thing because now I love praying for people and it's great. I would love to pray for you if you ask me, or I'll just pray for you. But yeah, right here is like kind of the worship. That was where it happened actually. But that's like the worship place. That is not the size of my school. That's when the other school came back. That's a story for another time. But our school is very small. It was only like 20 kids, I think. And how courses work was that every day or every week was a new speaker and a new topic. So we had topics like fear of the Lord and identity and pride and humility and the Trinity, like so many different things that were like I knew of but didn't know, and it was really cool. My favorite was probably the week we did relationships, and it was really, I never really looked at relationships like that and like distinguishing between, yeah, sure. Like having to take that and be like everything is a relationship. Like we all have relationships with everybody. And something that really stuck out was that every problem in this world is a relationship problem. And I was like, okay, let me just find something that isn't. And I was like, I couldn't. But it's like how much relationships are so important and how we need to value people because like we just need to. It's great. And then one that I really struggled with was probably what was it? The Father Heart of God. For this week, we got to dive into like how God is our Father and what that looks like. But we got to talk about how God is a forgiving Father, and we talked about forgiveness all week. And at the beginning of the week, the speaker said that we were going to write notes to somebody and people, lots of people actually, that we haven't forgiven, and write everything that they've ever done bad to us. And then at the end of the week, we were going to burn the letters. I struggled with this a lot because I was very prideful, and I was like, I forgive everybody. I have no problem with anybody. And then names were coming up, and I'm like, yeah, you suck, like that. You really hurt me in that one. So I wrote a couple long letters, and at the end of the week, we burnt them. And it was a struggle because lots of things came up that I just pushed aside because I didn't want to think about it. But this was good because I actually got to heal in it. Something that he said that will probably stick with me for the rest of my life is that when you choose to not forgive somebody, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Because when we think they don't deserve forgiveness, when we don't forgive them, we think, oh, they don't deserve it, so I'm not going to give it. But in reality, when we hold back that forgiveness, it's only going to hurt us. Like they don't even get any of that badness that we think they're going to get. It's just wrecking us inside, which I see how it was wrecking my life when I wasn't forgiving people. So that's going to stick with me for a while. So yeah, it's broken up into two parts. So the first part is for 3 months, I was based in Kentucky, Louisville. And school every day. But then for the last 2 months, we go on a missions trip. How I grew during the lecture phase was kind of like the how-tos. I was surrounded by people who loved Jesus, and I was learning what it looked like to live for God for once. And I remember in small group one time, I looked at my small group leader, and in front of all the girls, I said, wow, I need to share something with you. And I looked at them and I said, for the first time in my entire life, I actually want to live for God. Like I want my life to be like, I just want him in it. And I want to live for him and not live in my own ways. And that was kind of like how my faith started to grow because I saw the importance. For the missions trip, they kind of just told us where we were going, but like a month before we left. So I didn't know the places or the options before I even got to YWAM, but the choices were Brazil and Thailand. And I remember not having any idea where I wanted to go. And then someone said that we were going to, in Brazil, they would play like soccer or volleyball with the kids. And my heart was like, I want to do that so badly. I love kids so much. So on the note of paper that I handed into them, which place I wanted to go to, I said, you know what, maybe Brazil. I have no idea, you choose, because I'm very indecisive, and that's something that I'm working on. But thank the good Lord that I went to Brazil, because they are a loud country, and I am a loud person. Thailand, they told me that you couldn't actually talk too loud, and I'm like, I don't think I could have been okay there. Like, Brazil, we were like partying, and they were like being very quiet, like, don't tell anybody we're here, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I went to Brazil. Yeah, so there's 2 teams. So our school, like I said, was like 20 people, but we were split up into 2. So half went to Brazil, half went to Thailand. And we'll get into my Brazil missions trip later. But for the Thailand team, they had an amazing opportunity to be all-girls team, which is the first time they've ever done in our location. And so they got to actually go into the red light district in Thailand, and they got to talk with the prostitutes and like go to clubs and like meet people where they're at, where they're struggling, and talk to them. They also did friendship evangelism, so they go on the side of the streets and be like, hey, do you want to be my friend? And then in a non-creepy way, and maybe they would be like, yeah, I want to be your friend. And they would gain that relationship and then talk to them about Jesus, and then be like, this is how he's worked in my life. They weren't doing it in like a forceful way. They were genuine about the relationship and wanted to like grow and like get to know them, and they did. They had their struggles in Thailand. They had a visa valid for 1 month, but they were in Thailand for 2. And they knew this going in, but then it expired, whatever happened. I don't actually know the details, but they had trouble getting their other visa or something, so they were really stressed out because they were like, we can't stay in Thailand forever. So that was a really big struggle that they had, but they also ended up all getting head lice from the kids. They stayed in their rooms just with like bags on their head, and yeah, I imagine that was hard. We didn't get head lice, but that sucks for them. Yeah. Oh, actually, before I go on, the next slide, I celebrated my birthday in Kentucky, and they made me a beautiful cake, and I'd like to show it to you, but we're not going to stay too long on the slide because, well, you'll see. So this is the cake that they made us. It actually turns out that the only other Canadian on the team, we shared the same birthday, so that was weird. And people were like, oh, you guys must know each other because you both are from Ontario. And I'm like, no, we don't. Turns out we kind of do. So that's cool. So that's me and Nathan. And that's the cake that they made us. And then they put the American flag on it. So, yep. Next slide. Now is the time that you guys have all been waiting for, my Brazil trip, or the Brazil trip. Before I even start and tell you about my trip, I'd like to show you a video because, you know, videos are great and pictures can't really do justice. So.
set free. My Messiah, Christ my Redeemer. See me in the daytime, call me on my lifeline. Cause I'm ready, call to me, my King, my fire, burn my desires, guide me with the lights out, lead me in the desert.
Yeah, so that's our team. We got the team with the guys, all 2 of them, plus a guy leader. Yep, that's that. Next slide. Yeah, so these are the locations that we went to. So we started, we flew down into Sao Paulo first, and we stayed there for 3 weeks. And then we flew up into the north to Canabera de Peña. We were there for 2 weeks, and then our last location was in Guapimirim, and we were there for 3 weeks. So our first location was Sao Paulo. Here we did so many different types of ministry. We did house visits, we did kids ministry, we did a lot of teachings, which I had the great opportunity to do, and it was great. Yeah, we were there for 3 weeks, and I really did love it here. It was city life, so Sao Paulo is actually the largest city in all of the Americas. You know, I probably should have done some research before I went to Brazil, because I was like, city life, this is gonna be great. Okay, don't judge me, but I didn't realize it was low-key a third world country. I probably, like, my mom may have mentioned it before, and I'm like, I don't know why you're like acting like this, because it's gonna be fine. Brazil is cool. It has a Jesus statue. Like, clearly it's it's gotta be like amazing or something. It's Brazil. No, it's like actually like poor, and that was wild to experience. Also shocking, was not expecting it. So yeah. If you look in the middle picture, actually, that's supposed to say YWAM. And if you look really closely, I'm the Y. That was a fun night. The other picture is Brazilian barbecue we had. That guy's name is Marcinho. He's actually crazy. Good godly man. He's like crazy though. It was really good. We had chicken hearts. This was not part of, I'm gonna move on. They were chewy. It was good. It was fine. Next slide. Okay, so yeah, like I said, the ministry we did house visits and teachings. We actually like literally did everything in this location. But this picture right here, we went to this, we were doing a house visit, and we showed up, and this guy, Nathaniel, sure. He answered the door, and we're like, you don't look old enough to be these children's father. So he was like 16 or something, and he was the brother, but he was home, not at school, because he had cut his arm on glass or something and needed stitches. So he was staying home with the kids while his mom worked, and he was taking care of them all, and there was a lot of kids. And we got to pray over him, and he said that after he prayed, he like felt like actual healing in his arm, and like something lifted off of his chest. And I was like, that's cool. And then his little brother, nephew, somebody that he's related to, came out of the house, and his name was Philip. And he was just like this happy little boy, and I was like, you are so cute, I love you. And we were going to house visits to pray for people and do that kind of stuff, but afterwards we were inviting them to the kids ministry. We were just running down the street, which is the picture up there. And we were inviting them, and Philip came. Nathaniel didn't end up coming, but Philip, he was like 8 or something. And we were running this kids ministry for them, and it was truly like, it was really cool. So many kids showed up. I want to say like 30 or 40 kids. It was very, very hot. We were, so hot. I was drenched in sweat. But for the kids, for Jesus, it was great. And I remember the kids started to go home, and I looked at Philip, and he was like, okay, bye. And I'm like, okay, bye. And my heart just broke, because I just came to the realization that, like, yeah, I'm seeing all of these poor houses and poor people and them in poverty, but like they're going back to that. Like, they're not here just for 2 months. Like, they're living in this every single day. And my heart was like, wow, like, you're going home. Like, that's your life. And I'm just here for like 3 weeks, and then I'm going to a different location, and eventually I'm just going to go back home. And my heart broke. But then I just remember looking at him and seeing how much joy he had. And I was like, I want to be like that. I want to have so much joy in like the hard times. Like I looked up to that and I'm like, wow, like God, give me that joy, because he is so happy and he has literally nothing. So that was a really cool experience. In Sao Paulo, they actually have a place like literally called Crackland. And I remember hearing it and being like, "What? What do you mean Crackland? What's over there? There's crack. They're doing crack." It's literally the street. Well, first we were going through with this church, and when we went to the church, we had to put vests on, or whatever those are called, and it was like orange or yellow or something. But it was so like when we went to go talk to the people, that they wouldn't like mug us, and like, that they knew we were part of a church and there to help them. So we weren't allowed to bring, I wish I could have brought my phone to take pictures, but we weren't allowed to bring our phones or jewelry or anything of like any value, because they would have taken it. So we went to this like literally street of people, and I want to say there was over 500 people there that were homeless and doing drugs. And what we were doing there, we broke up into two groups, and half of us, we switched halfway through, but one half would give them water, and the other half would literally just walk down the street, and that's all we did. And I remember we were walking down the street, and I was paralyzed with fear, because I'm like, okay, I'm terrified. There is lots of drugs going on, probably knives, I don't know, guns, I don't know, this is scary. And I remember being so scared, because I wanted to talk to people and tell them about Jesus, but like I couldn't. Like I was like paralyzed, which no one got hurt. I mean, this guy did end up following us, and then someone like fought, and then it's fine. I got pushed, but it's fine. I'm living. But we walked through, and I have never seen anything like that, but I was also very sheltered growing up. But the guy on our team, the only guy leader, he grew up on drugs. He was very much a drug addict. His dad's very much should be in jail. And he said that he has never seen anything like this. And I'm like, okay, whoa, because you kind of live like that, and you've never seen anything like that, like, whoa. And it was an amazing experience, but it was kind of scary too. But before we actually went, like a few weeks before we even knew we were going to go, we got a word. We just sat down. We were like, hey, God, what do you have for us in Sao Paulo? And we got a word that we were going to be a light shining through the darkness. And nobody really like stuck with that. I mean, 2 people got the vision, which is crazy. But then somebody brought it up later, and we looked back on what we did, and we were literally the light walking through the darkness. We were wearing like the fluorescent vests, walking through the street, and we were just walking, and we were the light in the darkness, bringing hope. And we didn't necessarily have to say anything, but like people could see the Holy Spirit on us. Like they could feel it. Like we didn't have to say anything, but they saw it. So that was really reassuring. That was kind of Sao Paulo. It was very stretching, very stretching. So yeah, that was Sao Paulo. And then the next location we went to was Canabera de Peña. And it was up north. We got on a plane. Couldn't tell you how long it was, but I could tell you how long the bus ride was. We got on, and they told us like 3 hours probably, and I'm like, okay, that's like a trip to Toronto. I'll be fine. And so it's like 2 hours. I'm like, okay, 1 more hour to go. We are doing great. And then it's 3 hours, and I'm like, okay, we're not there yet. And then it was like 5.5 hours, 6 hours. And I'm like, okay, it's not that long of a ride, but it's like when you're expecting it to be only like 3 hours, and then it hits 6 hours, you're like, yeah, this was a long bus ride. So the first picture was the van that we were in. Oh dear. Yeah, we were packed in there, but we were going down the roads, and it was dirt roads. But don't think like dirt roads here, think like so much worse dirt roads. And like you shouldn't be going fast, but the bus driver was like speeding, and I was like actually scared for my life. Prayed to God a couple times, all the time, the whole time. And we were going down the road, and okay, I was just starting to take a nap because I'm like, okay, it's more than 3 hours. I'm just gonna sleep. And we're going up this hill, and then like around a corner, and then down a hill, and it's so fast. And then he brakes so hard, but no one's wearing the seatbelt because why would we? So I'm like sitting where no one's in front of me, and I'm flying a little bit in front of me. I wasn't hurt. We're good, guys. But turns out there was cows on the road, and we almost died. So that was that experience. But we got there safely. No one died. It was great. Here we did, for our ministry, it was a very small town. We did street evangelism. We went up to people and talked to them. We had a great actually opportunity to go up into the tribes. So that second picture, we went up into the mountains and we talked to tribes, people who were literally don't talk to people, which was actually crazy. Last week, Manly was talking about how it was eye-opening for him to see that people don't know like common stuff, like stealing is bad. And I remember we were talking to the tribe, and one of the translators asked like the group, where do you think these people are from? And they were answering, and they're like, Japan, Italy. And we were like, what? We are not Japanese. And I was like laughing, and I'm like, why are they thinking we're from these places? Like, we're clearly not. And then they were like, well, those are like the only countries they know. And I'm like, whoa. Like that was crazy that like they don't even know other countries. Like they don't have the education. And that was crazy. Another thing was somebody that they were discipling in this place, they were explaining about a bit of his story before we went to go talk to him. And he had been cheating on his wife, and the missionary there that was mentoring him was like, you know, cheating is bad, right? Like, you shouldn't do that. That breaks your marriage. And he was like, oh, I had no idea. And I was like, what do you mean? How do you not know this? And it's just like, it was crazy. I didn't know. They didn't know. So yeah, we did. Okay. I'm about to share a story that's very much too much information. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to share it anyways. The place that we stayed in this location was a hotel, but don't think bougie, like think not great hotel. We did have air conditioning in our rooms. That was really nice. So how it worked was that 2 people kind of stayed in a room together. We all had our own rooms and shared a bathroom. And this is like, oh, like finally, our last location, we didn't have AC. Like, this is going to be great. I'm going to have so much fun in this room. And then, you know, I'm out playing volleyball one night, which is like actually one of the things we did. And we come back, and I'm taking a shower, and then the water shuts off, and I'm like, oh, what is happening right now? I'm sweaty and gross and covered in sand. Turns out the pipes were broken in the town, so we ran out of water. That was a fun time. So then we prayed. The pipes got fixed. It was all good. And then we went to like go, use water again, and it wasn't working. And we're like, okay, this is weird. So it turns out the hotel only pumps the water twice a day, once in the morning, one at night. And if we run out, they're not pumping it again because they are too lazy to. And I'm like, okay. So we ran out of water again, and people were complaining, but it was great. I got sick. I got a parasite. It affected my stomach. And we didn't have water. So I'm going to let you use your imagination. But we did find a communal toilet. So none of us used our own bathrooms. We used the bathroom in the lobby. And then let's just say we all used it, and we were all kind of sick. And then it rained, and you want to know what we did? We ran outside with buckets, and we got the buckets, and we dumped them in the toilets because it reeked, and then we showered in the buckets because we had no water. So that was kind of the hotel. But you want to know something? It was genuinely my favorite location. Like, everyone else was like, I hated it. And I'm like, okay, well, I loved it, so that sucks. And I don't know why I loved it because, okay, I'm like stretching. I could probably move on from this, but God really worked in me, all of Brazil, but like the peace that he gave me, it's like when we didn't have water, I didn't actually care. I was like, we'll get water eventually. When I was sick and I'm like, this sucks, I probably want to get better one day. But I was like, I was okay. And I would get up and teach in front of people and I was okay. And I was telling people my story and I was okay. And like God really provided peace so many times to the point where I'm like, okay, God, I kind of want to cry, but there's peace. What's going on? And I actually got angry at him because I was at so much peace and I'm like, just bring me back the emotions. And I'm like, but God's like, chill out. Like, you're at peace. And I'm like, you're right. Okay. So yeah, that was kind of bad. We had so much fruit. That's actually probably where the parasite came from how much fruit we had. So good though. Next slide. This is Guapimiram. This is our last location. The other one, we were there for 2 weeks, but this one, we were there for 3. We did so much like plaza ministry. We would go to people. We would go to plazas and like soccer, whatever you call them, like parks. Yeah. And we run a little program for them. And then afterwards, like we would do a dance or sing a song or something like that. And then afterwards, we would go to the people and talk to them and be like, hey, how'd you think about it? Do you know who God is? Do you want a relationship with him? Do you want to be friends? Yeah, kind of stuff like that. And then here, we did that a lot, actually. But there's this one story, and it's kind of long, so I'm going to try and like sum it up. But we were doing, we were doing a soccer ministry, and so half of us were playing soccer, the other half were talking to the people around us. And I was talking to this one lady and we were just talking, she was in witchcraft and I was trying to like be like, hey, that's probably not great. And like trying to like talk into her life and bring her hope. And then my friend Sydney, she was sitting beside me, but she was like, she wasn't feeling good and she was not in the conversation much. And I was like, why don't you go play with the kids? Because you're clearly not well right now. So she was playing with the kids. And she was at the park, and this one little girl came up to her and like hugged her and was like, swing. And she was like, yeah, sure, because, they speak Portuguese and we don't. And she picked her up and put her on the swing. And this little girl's mom comes over to Sydney and she starts bawling her eyes out. And Sydney's like, what's going on? Turns out the little girl has autism and she doesn't actually like go up to anybody. She doesn't talk to anybody. She's very like only her and her mom. And her mom was like, this is like, whoa, like she's never done this. And she was so open to Sydney, and Sydney ended up talking to her, and turns out the mom had just rededicated her life to Jesus like 3 days ago, and Sydney got her phone number, but we got really busy and totally forgot to text her back. So sorry about that one. But God actually moved in that way, because we were doing house visits where we would literally just go up to random people's houses and start talking to them, be like, hey, can we come into your house? And they were like, yeah. And we were like, that is trusting. we are random people in your house. But we were walking, and the group in front of us, the first house they went to, they let them in. And we were like, okay, yes, let's do it. 40 minutes goes by, and nobody has let us into their house. And we're like, this is weird, because Brazilians love people. People were either not home or they were like too busy and kind of angry. And we were like, okay. And we were like, we lost hope and we were going to go back, but we were kind of far. So we're like, my friend Kelsey, she's like, we need to go. And I'm like, okay. So before we even went, we prayed and we're like, God, can you give us some words? Just like what we're looking for, what we can talk to people about. Oh, excuse me. And my friend Kelsey, she got a word, like she saw a girl in a pink dress with curly hair. And we were walking down this road, and I'm like, I thought it was scary. There was nobody in sight, no houses. I'm like, Kelsey, where are we going? We need to get back. Don't want to die. So we were walking down this road, and it was really far. And I'm like, I don't want to get bit by a snake. And at the end of the road, we see like a tiny little, there's a house and like another house, and there's a lot of people, but like not big. But it was literally in the middle of nowhere. And was crazy we even got there. And I see a little girl in a pink dress, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Kelsey, like, look at isn't that amazing? And I'm getting closer, and I'm like, there is no way, because it's the little girl with autism that my friend was talking to. And I'm like, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. So we go up, and the little girl grabs my hand, she hugs me, and she's bringing me into the house, and I'm like, okay, I am so sorry for intruding. But then this little girl is like chasing me through, or bringing me through the house, and then I end up in her mom's room, which she was not dressed, and I was like, I am so sorry. And I'm like, but do you remember me? Like, hello again. And she's like talking in Portuguese. I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying, but I'm here and I don't know what to do. And the little girl, like, we eventually get out, but it turns out like she was literally just praying to God. She's like, she was about to go to her ex-boyfriend's house to pick up her stuff, but she missed the train. And she was like, God, if this is a sign from you, like, show me that it's a sign. And then literally 3 seconds later, we show up, and she's like, got it. So we actually got to talk to her, and we got to pray into her life and her child's life and her mother's life. And it was like, that was the moment where I'm like, okay, God, yeah, you can work literally in any way, because we just happen to be here, and like, I know this person. So we got to get her connected with the people of this place, and that was really cool. This is, okay, I didn't actually play what is this called? The drums, the cabone or whatever. I was just posing because it was cute, but that's like one of the plaza ministries we do. We'd play music, and then afterwards we'd talk to the people, and then that's just us like going up to random people and talking to them. But this is actually how we traveled. Since I was the smallest in the group, I got to lay across everybody. There was 4 of us in the back, and then one very small car. So yeah, that's a great picture to show us how we traveled around. What? Okay, and then in our last location, I don't know, I sent out a newsletter to people, but I'm sure not everyone has gotten one. But I got baptized, yay! I can get into that later because it has to do with another story. I am kind of running out of time. But yeah, I got baptized. We will get back to that later. So I kind of talked about how I grew my faith during the lecture phase, but now during the actual missions part, in my faith, I learned what it looked like to live a Christian life, to live for God, but now I was actually applying it. I was living for God. I was literally, the Great Commission, like, I'm going out and telling the people, and it was great because I've never done that before, and I was so glad it was Brazil because people are so welcoming and so relational that, and they already kind of know Jesus. I mean, like, they're Catholic, but we got to like be like, well, let's get away from the religion and relationship, and people were like kind of already knew and very like open to hearing about God. So that was really great because rejection is kind of sucks, but you can get through it. But people didn't reject it, so it was cool. So yeah, I really got to apply that to my life, what it looked like to live for God. And then a question was like, is there a difference in you? And I'm like, yeah, I am not the same person I was when I left. Something that I really do believe is that I have found genuine joy in the Lord, that I tried to fill that hole with people or partying and all that stuff, but like, nothing can ever compare to like the joy that I now have in God, because, well, I was kind of like forced to, because I was taken out of everything that I knew. I was literally placed somewhere I've never been before, and I had to solely rely on God to give me joy. And he did, because he saw that I was hurting, and he's like, here, like, take it because I love you. And I'm like, okay, like, this is great. And I have found this joy that I just want to tell everyone about. And people have told me, like, you seem happy. And I'm like, it's because I am. Like, I don't need to find it in this world because I can find that in God. Yeah, my entire like mind has been like reset. Before I didn't really, like, God was at the back of my mind, but now it's like God is always there. I see everything kind of like my mindset has changed. I see where there's brokenness and how I can pray into it. I see how there are people that are broken and how like God can give redemption and healing to it. And now I actually know my value. I know that I have a purpose. God has healed me from my depression, but it's like now he is showing me who he's created me to be, and I know my value is in him. I don't need to find it in this world. So being home, like I said, I had like such great peace when I was in Brazil, but as soon as I got home, like instant spiritual attack. Like I was caught off guard by all the anxiety. I'm like, God, bring back the peace. But I really had to fight that off because I knew that wasn't the life I was going to live anymore, because I know what God's peace is like, and now I'm going to fight for that every day. Yeah, and then I was feeling kind of down, and I'm like, okay, I was surrounded by great people. I kind of need that again. So my loving mother, she signed me up for a weekend, and in LL. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but it was a young adults weekend, and I was like, okay, I really don't want to go, but I'm going to do it because I kind of have to, because she signed me up. So I went, and you know what? I hate to admit it, but maybe she was right. Maybe I did need it. It was really good. And my name, actually, this is a great story. Steve's going to like it. He loves it. For my whole life, I actually just went by Hadassah. My legal name is Hadassah. And when I was in Brazil, part of my testimony was like, as a symbol of this, like I'm going to be baptized in Brazil and like leave the Hadassah here and go home as the Hadassah that God has called me to be. And then when I got home, I like didn't do that. I just went by Hadassah because I felt like, what is the word? Is it inconsiderate in something? Inconvenient. Thank you, Mother. I felt inconvenient to others because I'm like, I don't want to make this awkward for you because this is fun and I don't want to be that person. So I didn't. And then I went to the weekend retreat and I just went by Hadassah. I didn't tell anybody what I usually went by. And it was healing. I was like, wow, like, you know what? People aren't yelling at me right now because that's how I knew my name. Like, if I was in trouble, it'd be like, Hadassah, like, get to your room. And I'm like, okay. But people are like, Hadassah, can I pray for you? And I'm like, yes, okay, you can pray for me. So it was really healing. But the crazy thing is that before I even went, they sent my name, like the LO people, they sent my name out to people all over the world, and they prayed for me. And they wrote a letter for me before I even got there. And then I was reading the letter the last day, and it was long, but in the middle of it, it's like, I have called you by name, Hadassah. And I'm like, okay, I will go by it now, because clearly you're telling me to. So that's my name. And I would like for you guys to call me that from now on. Sorry if that's weird for you, but I don't really care because God's calling me to it. So yeah, that is like kind of my story. God has definitely been working in my life for quite some time, and it's been a journey. But like I said before, that we need to be people that go out and tell people our stories. Like tell them the small times that like we were feeling a little sad and we're like, God, I kind of don't want to be sad anymore. And he was like, here's some happiness. And or like he curing you, that's not a word. Him curing you of depression, like stuff like that. It doesn't matter how big or small that you think it is. Like we are called to go. It is literally in the Bible, Matthew 28:19, I think, where it's like, go make disciples. Like we are called to go, and that involves telling people about Jesus and how he has worked in our lives. So I guess that's something I didn't really realize before, is that we're actually called to do something, that this isn't just about our lives and how God has worked in my life. And I keep that for myself. It's about going and God using those testimonies, how he worked in our life, and sharing it with people and it moving into other people's lives. And then it's like doing the same thing, and it's like a multiplication effect. So I really encourage you all to I know God has worked in your lives. And I just encourage you to tell people how God has worked in your lives.